see the world through other people's eyes. Now, empathy is a quality of character that can change the world.
Good morning, it's Scott McArthur here, and welcome to Artefact Live, where we look at the art and the science of storytelling. It's a relief to be here. After the last couple of weeks, we've had terrible problems with the technology. We've finally got to sort of the bottom of it. The company we use, Restream, have been very apologetic, but we seem to have solved it by going backwards in Chrome history. So fingers crossed. Poor Markus, my guest today, this is the second time he's been ready to rock. So it's great to be here. Now, amazingly, look at this. This is the 25th episode of the show, and I'm absolutely made up that we've got this far. I'm even more made up that it's starting to get some traction across the different platforms. Hello, Twitch! Finally got people watching me on Twitch, which is hilarious. But it's nice to have you with us. So if you've never been before, thanks for coming along. I promise you an interesting and fun show today with a brilliant storyteller who's slightly loopy, which I love. But before I do that, there's a couple of things I just wanted to check out with you to make sure we're all coming at this show as best we can. The first thing now, if you are watching in one of the Facebook groups that we are currently going into, there's a little thing you have to do, and it's on the screen now. There's a little link in the Empathy Engine Facebook group, which is where most of you come from. If you click that little link, 3 clicks later, your name will then appear in the chat if you contribute to the show. It's really important that I can give you a name check. It's quite nice. So if you want to have your name on the show, in the chat, click that little button and it'll put you straight onto that. The second thing is, as I've been doing now for 2 or 3 weeks, I offer this idea of open all cams. And that's where if you have a question for myself or for my guest this week, Markus, you can click that little link and it brings you live into the show. So you will actually see you. So please have your, at least have your shirt on the top and your pajamas on the bottom, not the other way around. So to do that, all you do is send me a little message in the chat and I'll send you the link. So it's really, really easy. And it would be great to have some live questions later on after we've been through Markus's, let me say, tour. I think that's the best word to use to describe this week's show, but we're going to have a bit of a tour. Now, the theme this week, and I know last time I spoke about your personal story and how we could use storytelling to improve how you tell your own personal stories. And I gave you some ideas from the cultural stuff from Scotland, from New Zealand, from all over the world that you could use to start to gather together ideas to present your own story. But this week, we're really going to an edge or going to a part of the domain of storytelling that is significantly different to that. This is a place where we can change the world literally with the stories that we tell. Now, you know how I finish a show every week. If you watch me regularly, I always say gather your own stories because they could change the world. And changing things in society is one of the things that storytelling can do. But don't just believe me. Now, if you came in last week to my emergency broadcast, you'll have seen this before. It still works the second time. So I'm going to go to the world of film. Of course, another type of storytelling. I'm going to show you a very, very short clip of a very, very famous, intelligent, but bit of a loop called Lannister. So let's get Tyrone on. Watch this, Tyrone. Tyrion.
What unites people? Armies? Gold? Flags? Stories. There's nothing in the world more powerful than a good story. Nothing can stop it.
There's nothing more powerful in the world than a good story, and nothing can stop it. I think I can go home now. It says it all, doesn't it? So let's ponder on that as we go through today's show. But let me now introduce my guest, and I'd like to introduce Markus to you. Now, Markus, I hope you're ready there, Markus. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Markus to the show. Hello.
Hello, everybody. Hello, world.
That has to be the funniest introduction picture I've ever had on the show. What have you got on your head?
It's a propeller head, and welcome to the Propellerhead Laboratory.
Ah, right, okay. So, Markus, introduce yourself to the watchers, please. Tell us all about you. I've got your job title and some of your roles on the screen, but what is it you do in this laboratory you've just mentioned?
Well, I'm a propeller head. So what propeller heads do, they create ideas together with all sorts of people in all sorts of environments, in harsh conditions, in easy conditions, everywhere, every time. So Kukunori, where we are now, is the center organization of culture and well-being. So it's an umbrella organization of 42 NGOs working in Finland with mental health, disability, and minorities and citizenship. So in this laboratory, we actually change the world. This is an experimental laboratory. So are you ready to experiment?
Absolutely. Just say Kukunori. Is that it? Kukunori. Is that it?
Yes.
Is that how you pronounce it? Right.
It's a name of a troll.
Is it?
Yeah. It's a troll like this Tyrion Lannister that you just mentioned. So
yes.
it's a troll that ponders what happens in the world, and are there some other people? Could we find some friends? And as you can see, it says straight in Finnish, olet oikeassa paikassa. You're in the correct spot, in the correct place. Because usually when people call, they first ask that, am I in the correct place? Yes, you are. And you're not alone.
Oh,
so
wow.
As you can see, we have thousands of propeller heads out there.
Yes.
So probably the people watching here are propeller heads too. So our message is that we are all propeller heads. So the change, it starts with you.
Mm.
So that's the only change we can have. And in this huge laboratory, as you can see here in the background, we can come together and use design thinking and systemic thinking in creating sustainable change in the world.
Well, can I ask you a question on that, Markus? Because I mean, it looks exciting already. I love it.
It is.
I've never seen that wall before. What do you mean by design thinking? What is that? I mean, I know I never prepped you to think about that, but can you give it a sort of a short definition of what that means in terms of thinking and storytelling?
Well, I think it's a good method of storytelling because the design thinking as a model includes a lot of benefits. One of the benefits is that we ask that who should be here. For example, here in the background, you can see a design map where we created this laboratory. So we gathered all the people together who are using this space. And we explored the phenomenon together, that what's in it and what would you like to do. And we created a sort of a safe space, mentally and physically accessible space where we can reorganize everything and create environments where you can create solutions, explore solutions, and test solutions.
Okay. So if you've got, you said 42 companies?
Yes, they are non-governmental organizations, non-profit organizations. In Finland, it's a large sector. And we work together because the challenges of our time need all of us. It's not only organizations, it's us, the people.
Yes.
So that's why citizenship is very important. And that's why Kukunori and me, we are part of a large worldwide network called Citizen Network. And I'm the CEO of the Citizen Network Cooperative. Cooperative is a very useful way to bring people together to create the change, because it's there to do it.
So when you have an issue that you wish to focus on, a social issue or whatever type of issue it is, do you bring people in from all the different companies to look at the issue, or how do you actually run a session in the laboratory? How would that work, Markus?
One of the important things are the facilitators. So facilitating the change is very important. That means that the facilitator doesn't really have to know about the subject so much, but the person or the persons need to know about the theory of change and the processes included. So here's one of the examples. It's called the map of recovery.
Right.
Toipumiskartta. And it was developed here in this space, collecting people that have personal experiences of mental health challenges, facilitated by facilitators who also have experiences in mental health. So people recovering from mental health situations can also reorganize and redesign, for example, their work role. So it's something that these kind of systemic skills are needed for us, everybody, so we can create solutions that actually work.
What do you, sorry if I'm bringing it right back to first principles, but what do you mean by systemic skills, Markus?
Yes, in design language, the systemic means that everything is happening at the same time. So all people, all organizations, time, resources are in the same picture. So that's why we are trying to create huge pictures that include all the things, so we can look and say, hey, I can see myself on the map. I can see myself in this process, and I can understand it.
Right.
Because usually the processes are done in a manner that is very mechanic.
Right.
And we call them silver bullets. Everybody has those. like this will change the world. If we just multiply this magnificent innovation, then everything is okay.
Yes.
But that's not the case. That's why we need this kind of systemic approach that includes as much as possible around the theme that we are exploring.
Okay, that makes sense. And so I guess the language I've used in the past would be to look at the ecosystem.
Yes, that's related to this.
Yeah.
Yes, it's the same thing.
Yes. And I mean, this might be an unfair question, but is there something of a success that you've had that you're particularly proud of that's happened in the laboratory? I mean, I have seen some bits and pieces already, but is there something you could share with us that you think, yeah, I'm really proud that we did that in this laboratory and it really helped people?
Here's one example. It's called the Tower of Life.
Right.
And it's like a game.
Yeah.
And it was designed by a team with mental health issues, and they were exploring the phenomenon and collected 64 things that are that create the well-being in your life.
Yes.
So it has statements like, I'm not a perfectionist. For example, safe and comfy home, all these things. So we will then spread these innovations, concrete designed innovations, to libraries where people can then borrow them and use it in any environment, because
Yes.
we don't actually know if it works or not. That's why it's called experimental culture.
Yes.
So we are constantly following the data that's being created when people are testing their innovations.
Right.
And we have created a huge digital platform called Pokka, which is now used in 370 organizations in Finland, and it's free for them to use.
Wow.
And by putting in the data daily, it creates a huge data bank where you can actually, after years of collecting data, you can actually see the change for the better or the worse, but you can actually lead with data and not with these silver bullets.
Yes. It's a fascinating idea because from the experience I've had in the corporate world, one of the big barriers to successful change, or they prefer to call it transformation, I'm not sure they all know the definition of these words, but is that they don't do experimentation. They may have the occasional pilot study, but that's not experimentation, as you know. And it would be something I think that the corporate world could really learn from. You know, I think it's quite a powerful model of reframing, if you like, reframing the way we do business. I don't know if that's something you've thought about, Markus, but it certainly makes a lot of sense to me, because you need to get people have heard my elephant story before, and you need to get different types of brains in a room to maximize the outcome. But very, very few organizations do that. And in fact, I think it's fair to say very few people do that. Would that resonate?
Yes, definitely. I totally agree.
Yeah.
And one of our successes is that this whole environment of change, that means that by bringing people together, we call them diversity groups. So the diversity of the group is the key to success, because we are so focused on our own expertise and our own history. So using creative methods, like now we are in Kukunori, which is a culture organization, using music, theater, or all sorts of tools and methods. For example, these kind of tablecloths where you can actually build your new innovations too. They create this kind of shared environment of change. It's not you or me, it's the ideas that are now working, and we're testing these ideas. And people tend to commit to the change where they design the change.
Right.
And as you know, in organizations, if the boss says you to do something, how motivated are you? But if you're sort of in the conversation, sort of seeking ethical ways to move ahead and create solutions, then you commit to that solution. And it also, we have found out that it leads to very economically sustainable models, because people start to see what they already have. Last year, when we do these experiments and collect the data, then we model them. Last year, we published 40 models.
40?
Yes. And think about it. Usually, if you have a project, you come with one model.
Yes.
So we are also, this shows that the way how we are working, also it's very economically sustainable and creates a lot of solutions, because you can actually go from ideation to actual practice very quickly.
Right. Ideation is the collection of ideas, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
And you can do it in so many ways.
Yes.
And we have workshops, digital, and before COVID, we met here at the this environment, but we also travel a lot around Finland. And if you create the solutions in that environment where it's actually working, that's also a good idea. But sometimes it's good to come to this shared environment and design an environment that works for you.
Yes. Now, I'm going to ask you a question that no one will be expecting me to ask you, but tell me about the Eurovision Song Contest.
Okay. So I've been working with people with intellectual disabilities and challenges for over 20 years. And I think that's my key to success.
Yeah.
Because if you're working with people that have a special way of thinking about life and thinking about society, that helps to create a society for all. And I've been working in an NGO called Lyhty, very innovative organization, boldly going to places where no man has gone before. and they created this culture workshop model where people are supported in creating through their passion.
Yes.
And one of the passions is music.
Yeah.
So there was a group of 4 punk rockers who wanted to compose, record, and perform their original songs.
Yes.
And little by little, the band is called Pertti Kurikan Nimipäivät. They gained a huge success here in Finland, and then they represented Finland in the Eurovision Song Contest.
Now I've got a little clip of this, so I'll just play it for the people watching. It's really, it's only 30 seconds, but it's really, I think it's
you
great.
have to see it to believe it.
Yeah, absolutely. Here it comes. Not the usual Eurovision Song Contest dribble, is it?
No. It's the shortest Eurovision song ever.
Really?
So roughly 2 minutes.
I love it. So they took that idea and they ended up on one of the biggest stages in the world. I mean, I think that's
performing for over 200 million people.
Gosh.
So if you think that the media attention they have gained, it's not their only performance. They've been touring around the world,
really,
in all continents, and they have recorded something like over 10 records alone and together with other people. So they created a career through their passion to music. So how you are doing things is very important.
Absolutely. I think that's absolutely fantastic. What's one of the people who are watching, Peter Edge, says, I thought just for a moment that it was Boris Johnson and lead vocals.
No, it was Kari Aalto, the most original guy in Helsinki. So check incredible. Out. So after their career, they created their own business. So they are businessmen today.
Oh,
so
good.
They own their own company, and they have a shop in Helsinki called Pertin Valinta. So everybody coming to Helsinki, you should check out the Pertin Valinta for outsider art from all over the world, very rare vinyl records, a lot of very interesting things, but also services.
Right, okay.
So this place where we are now, we also designed together with them and a bunch of other people a very peculiar service called the travel agent of art.
Yes. Yes. Now we'll come back to that. I've got an idea on that, but I think what we'll do, if you could, there's been a poster behind you that I've seen coming into view about 4 or 5 times. That one.
Yes.
If you could wait there, but what we'll do, we'll just pause for a moment, and I'm going to tell everyone about something else that's been happening over here in my little studio for the last few days. So what a start to the show, folks. I think you'll agree it's been quite remarkable. And Marcus's enthusiasm just flies out of the screen. And that's the largest artifact I've ever had on the show. So thank you so far, Marcus. There's much more to come. But I just want a little intermission because something else is happening on the 8th of March that I want to talk to you about ever so briefly. So I've been trying to think of ways of, reusing my material, getting my material out there, trying to encourage more people to become part of it, because I genuinely believe this idea that stories can change the world. And purely by coincidence, I noticed that the 8th of March was International Women's Day. And I thought, what could I do? Well, I'm very lucky that in the last few months, I've met quite a lot of women who are, they're so inspiring. And what I've done is I've pulled together a little, I rather arrogantly call it a festival, but it's just a group of these people. I've brought them together, or rather recordings that they did with me, and I'm going to be broadcasting a whole day of the material. I'm going to start this at 10 o'clock in the morning, and we're going to work our way through these 5 wonderful women who are going to share their stories about how they have lived their lives and how they've been successful in their lives. Every one of them is really successful. And it goes from spirituality to music, to leadership, to coaching, to speaking on the TEDx stage. So it's a real mix. And I really hope you can join me, because it's one of these events that I'm actually stretching myself quite a bit, because this technology, as you've known if you've been following me, isn't really designed to run such major events, but Restream themselves are quite excited about it. So we're really going to try our best to bring you an interesting show. And once again, there will be the opportunity for you to join me live, because between each one of the talks, we're going to do some Q&A stuff. I'll do some reflections. Some of the guests actually might pop in live as well. So I hope you can join me, and it's free. This is a test. The next one might not be free, but this one is free. So thanks very much for that. So let me bring my guests back on, and we're going to look at this picture that Marcus has been walking by for the last 20 minutes. Marcus, where's your picture? Oh, he's got his... We didn't practice.
Do you get any new ideas, Scott?
What you like? Right, now I'll get this picture. I've actually got a copy of it. Do you want me to put it on the screen and you talk it through, or do you want to go to the one? That's probably here we go. Right, now, wow. First thing first, it's really bright, isn't it?
It is.
So what we're looking at?
This is a production coming out of one of our workshops. And the challenge in the workshop was how to demolish things inside organizations, in NGOs.
Yeah.
How to make small explosions that create space for new ideas and new action. Mm-hmm. People tend to develop all the time.
Yeah. New
things on top of new things, until they are exhausted. But people lack skills in demolishing, reorganizing, reinventing things together. So not only in one organization, there was a bunch of people, and we concretely, we had all sorts of tools available, and we created the organizations as they were. Mm-hmm. And then we have chainsaws and hammers and everything, and we destroyed and demolished them, and then we created the good stuff.
Right.
Sort of, not everything is bad.
Yes.
Ever. Mm. But you have to sort of think once in a while that what are those things that you need to be able to organize yourself into a new position. As we all know, we are faced with a lot of challenges worldwide. Yes. So that means that we have to learn quicker and faster than ever before. We have to share more. We have to understand more. We have to commit ourselves into these ethical goals of saving the planet, for example. So we need to actually stop doing things, and that's difficult.
Yes.
And this is what we there found out, that there are things that are blocking your way into different dimensions. There are obstacles that you can demolish. There's skills that you can learn how to demolish things and reorganize and redesign. And actually, after this workshop, we created a huge workshop where we demolished my own organization, what I created 10 years ago.
Wow.
So we worked together with a demolishing company, with real huge equipment. And we worked outside, and we built the organization there, and these huge machines then demolished that, and then we created something new out of that.
Do you know, I've never, this is one of these things that it's so obvious. If you're changing something, you've got to demolish what you have. But you know, I've never thought of it that way. It's brilliant. I love it. I'd never ever thought of it. You need to break what you've got to move on to the next formation, the next, you know, the new form of the business. So it's a really good thinking, Markus. I like it a lot.
And one of the key elements is to mingle with the people that know about demolishing.
Right.
Not in the social or health sector, but in demolishing business. And they understood immediately what we are after.
Yes.
Because they are very ethically oriented. They want to demolish things in a way that is sustainable.
Yes.
So that's something that we are doing here at the Propellerheads with organizations, with NGOs.
So what type of people have got demolishment, can demolish things? What are their, who are they? What do they do? You know, what are they, where do they come from?
I think we are all demolishers. As you know, Finland has the highest rate of heavy metal bands.
Yes.
So this kind of dark side is strong here. So that's why we are sort of pessimistic in such manner that we are almost optimistic.
Yes.
So everything will go this way or that way. At least we are here still, and it's dark. So and cold.
Yes.
And so forth. So we all need these skills, and that's the whole point. We are all propeller heads.
Yes.
So we cannot rely on the bosses or politicians to create sustainable change. We need us all, and I think people are more educated and more knowledgeable, or should be, at least at the moment. So it's on us, because we cannot escape. There is no planet B. Yes. So we are all here together, and I think these kind of narratives, these kind of stories are very energizing and very empowering.
Yes.
Is it you that once said to me that don't tell, show? So somehow these stories are somehow linked to the Kukunori idea of using culture. Sort of these national narratives tell us where we came from and who we are. And also we can reinvent these stories. We can write them again, and we can write stories that support this kind of positive outlook on the future. But the data doesn't help. I believe in skills and learning these skills. So if you learn the skills in demolishing, then you can use it in your working place, in your own life, and think, actually the key question is, what is important to me?
You've said something there that I think we could potentially do another show on. You know, the data doesn't help. It's quite a powerful statement, and it's one that I've used myself, and I often struggle with it, Markus, because I believe in data. You know, I believe in evidence, but I think socially and culturally, and I think COVID has probably helped with this, that quite often the data doesn't help. It's the story, and that's why you probably heard me saying this, that facts tell, but it's the stories that sell. It's the stories that are transformational, not the data. That's certainly what the evidence suggests. But so let me. We've got one other subject we wanted to talk about, the travel agent thing you mentioned earlier. I'd like us to talk about that. But just before we do, can I remind people that if you have a question, please pop it in the comments. This is the Artefact Live show you're watching just now with my guest Markus, where we're looking at social change and stories. So if you could type it in, we'd love to hear from you. But I'd like to, and also if you're in the Artefact, the Empathy Engine Facebook group, and you want to come on and you want to be a guest and ask a question, please pop you see the link there, just click it and that'll take you into the studio. Now, you won't come immediately in, don't worry. I'll prime you, but you can pop in and ask either myself or Markus a question. And if you're out with the Facebook group, same thing happens. Just DM me somehow on LinkedIn or on Facebook, and I'll send you the link and you can join us. So, Markus, the other thing that you mentioned was this idea of the travel agent. What was that about? Let's have a think about this now.
So everybody should check out Inside Outside Finland, which is a virtual reality exhibition of Finnish outsider art. So you don't have to travel anywhere. You just put on your glasses and you're in these locations. So through pertinvalinta.fi, you can find out Inside Outside Finland, and there's a website for it as well. There's these kind of new ways to people to experience art.
Yes.
And when we have this exhibition, so how can people then experience it? We have to take this exhibition, which only needs a computer, a television, and virtual reality goggles. So then the band members from Pertti Kurikan Nimipäivät, pkn.rocks, check it out. They invented together with people, because they want to support entrepreneurship and among people with intellectual disabilities. So they created with Propellerheads a new kind of service. The idea of the service is to use public spaces like museums, libraries, youth centers as venues for working with art and create new audiences for art.
Marvelous.
So we also created a movie together with the Finnish movie maker Klaus Welp that sort of tells a little bit about Propellerheadish idea of the innovation.
Now, I love this. It's a very clever video.
Hi, my name is Helle. Sami Helle. This is the future.
You can put it full screen.
Okay.
Good morning, Sami. Please brush teeth. Please eat your nutritious breakfast. Now go to work.
Let's work together and make life special. Come along. Let's go.
You are entering the Helsinki Central Library Audi.
Art makes you travel, and I'm here to support your special art travel experience. I help you to discover and explore art in new ways in new spaces. This is where I guide people to experience virtual reality.
So we'll point people to the URL in the after show pack. But it goes on, and I think it's quite inspiring. But what was the intention of this video, Markus? What were you trying to do with this work?
I think it's about sharing the innovations in new ways. we have modeled it and we have published the model how to do this. But we need to market and show people that what is it, because then people tend to innovate that, okay, this is something that I could do in my own village, in my own area. And that's why we took this innovation, the travel agent of art, and took it into the travel events.
Yes.
Not with social and health events, but places where people go and seek new places to travel. So there in that location, we ask people, hey, how would you develop this idea further? And people committed through their ideation, through their thinking to this service. And then they are the ones taking the innovation to new locations. So we need new kinds of people also using these innovations, because they see different things that people like me totally focused on social change.
Yes, I think it's an example of, again, I loved what you said earlier about diversity and how the diversity of the group is the key to success. It's a fantastic statement to leave us thinking about what you've said today. I think that's been fantastic, Markus. There's so much more that we could tease out of this conversation. Do you have a couple of observations for you and some questions that people would like to ask? Facebook user, I don't know who you are, sorry, I think it might be Joe, but really straightforward thinking, but hugely inspiring idea about demolishing. Yes, I think it's a terrific metaphor. So Markus, thank you for that. It obviously really resonated with the group. And Peter's asking, is there a computing analogy with this along the lines of freeing up hard disk space by demolition to create space for creativity? Yeah.
Yes, Peter, definitely. And also, I'm a computer geek, as we all are. I don't know, but I have 20 computers, old and new. And I believe in this kind of hacking mentality. When you're hacking something, you're actually exploring the opportunities that the code brings to the table.
Yeah.
And there's a whole culture of game jamming, for example. People, game designers and game creators coming together to enjoy coding in a way that's more playful. And this playfulness is the key to success also.
Yes.
We have a saying in Finland that you have a too tight grip. So loosen your grip a little bit and then everything works well. So creating this kind of safe and relaxing environments for designing the change to save the world, for example, is one thing. We are too busy to save the world at the moment. Yes. So we need to demolish and get sort of time to do it. We have to stop and to think clearly what we are doing now and somehow reorganize ourselves in a new way.
This is it. I mean, it's very practical and very thought-provoking, I think. And apologies, it was Doug that asked the question earlier. He's got a longer piece here. I'm not sure you'll be able to see it all, but he says, I missed the beginning of the show, so apologies if you've answered this before. But how do we get people to let go of old culture and ways of doing things and demolishing it? What went before? So getting rid of what went before. I'm on a local authority race panel. So this is the sort of thing that he's having to deal with all the time. And that race panel is something that is vital to how we approach our activities. So could you give him any thoughts on that? Could you give any Doug any thoughts on that?
Very good question. And it's something that we have pondered a lot in this laboratory.
Right.
And changing that, actually, the key is there to commit yourself to this transformation. And that means questions and discussion about power and who has the power over resources, who has the power over actions and processes, for example. And it's also a skill issue. That do we need to learn new skills? Do we have to, for example, collaborate or network with other people that could bring the change?
Yes.
And sometimes it's the only way to do it is to demolish the organization. Sort of like the history, the story is blocking the way forward.
Yes.
So we are more committed to the old historical story of where we are and why we are here. So we have to also think about that. Okay, for example, Scott and Markus coming together with our skills, and let's create a new organization, for example.
Yes. There's a nice segue there again from Peter, who said, and as your hard drive gets fuller, your computer gets slower and slower and more stultified. Absolutely. Yeah, that works really well, doesn't it? That works really well. Well, Markus, that has been tremendous, and I love the metaphors that you've given us. Obviously, your whole thing was full of artifacts, so that works for me, which is terrific. So if everybody could join me in giving him a round of applause. Thanks, Markus. Love to have you back,
Scott.
It was excellent. And
check out the Silence the Shame campaign by Shanti Das from Atlanta.
What's that?
It's a campaign to increase the well-being of people in entertainment business, like you and me, Scott.
Right.
So,
So
Shanti used to be the boss of Motown Records. So now she's working locally and globally in the United States in this. So silencetheshame.com, check it out. And also nolabelsnowalls.net is a very good place to be, because it's our global community coordinated by Kukunori and Strindberg Laboratory in Los Angeles. So join in.
Could you give us, that's a Facebook group as well, isn't it?
Yes, join.
Yeah. And on Monday, I'm actually speaking about storytelling at that group. So if you can cope with more of my voice, please come in and look at the Facebook group. So it's No Labels, No Walls. Is that right? No Labels, No Walls.
Yes.
Well, Markus, thank you ever so much. It's been fantastic having you on the show. I definitely want to have you back. There's so many more things we could talk about. I think data is something that you and I could have a very, very useful conversation.
Yes, definitely.
Between data and storytelling. So thank you very much.
Thanks.
So I hope you enjoyed that. I thought that was one of the most interesting shows I've ever had. Absolutely fantastic. And I think, as I said to Markus there at the end, his ideas around metaphor, his storytelling, absolutely fantastic. So I hope you've enjoyed this week's show. I really have. And I think that I'm going to build on it, because the whole dynamic felt different this week. So I think I've got something to learn from how that worked as well. So I hope you've enjoyed it. Let me just check the chat one last time before I say goodbye properly. Thank you very much, Peter. Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Joe. Really appreciate your guys. Your support is unbelievable. Thank you very, very much. And I'm going to finish by just reminding you that on the 8th of March, I'm doing this. I'm actually quite scared about it, but I'm trying to keep my head together, keep my head around it. I'm doing this piece about International Women's Day, so I hope you can join me in that day. So my name is Scott McArthur, and thanks very, very much for watching Artefact Live, the art and science of storytelling. I'll see you next week.